Yeah. It's not too hot today, but it's a muggy one.
Yeah, it's one of those times of the year or in the summer where it wants to rain more than it rains, I feel like. So.
Yeah, well, it's especially muggy because it did rain last night. But yeah, you kind of just feel it in the air, and it's got some.
You feel it in the air? You feel the heat in the night, is what it is. That's right. Yeah, here we are. Some like it unauthorized. We're back in the heat of the night.
Yeah, here we jump into 1967 with this Norman Jewison directed film starring Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger. Yeah, I have no idea what you thought, Zach. Well, by the way, I'm Jay Brooks Young,
and I'm Zach Domes.
Yeah, what? Yeah, well, I'm very curious what you thought.
Oh man, I mean, this was a captivating little thriller. I appreciated it. You know, it's not easy to do a movie about police officers, and I don't think it ever really was. And especially looking back from our perspective now, things have gotten complicated and, you know, potentially dangerous for your career in a way. I know Spike Lee got some flack for his movie he did, Black Klansman. Some people didn't appreciate the way he handled police officers. And so, yeah, I think that this movie does fairly decently with all that stuff. And it was fun. I mean, it was really, it was interesting. It was clever the whole way through.
Yeah, it was fun, and it was like refreshing for the time. Yeah, you didn't have films like this. I think Pauline Kael said, you know, this didn't feel self-righteous, self-congratulatory in how it handled race, which practically any film that did coming out of Hollywood at that time felt like. And it was refreshing because of that. And for Sidney Poitier to be playing this homicide detective, it just refreshing's the word. And yeah, it was fun. It had some funny bits.
Yeah, what are more of your thoughts? I'm curious.
It's a good film. It's like they're doing something kind of new. And the consequence of that is that people are going to iterate on this film quite a bit, and it's going to make this film kind of look old very quickly, I think. I'm thinking about the stuff that comes out in the 70s, where this has a resemblance to something like The French Connection or something, you know, this more kind of hard-boiled police story. And, you know, those films, they just get more ambitious and frenetic in a very short amount of time as the sort of style changes as new Hollywood comes up in the years after this. But yeah, in that sense, like, there were parts where I felt the film was kind of slow and I didn't love some of the acting, but I thought it was pretty sharp, and I think it does hold up relatively well, and it's pretty, like, honest about, you know, what the sort of conditions were in the country, in the South at that time, all of that stuff. So I really liked it, but yeah, it's one I appreciate more with the context around it. I think I would have a tougher time if I just sat down and I didn't know anything about what films looked like at this time, and I just tried to watch it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it does feel that way. It's a noir. You know, it registers as a kind of older film. I mean, if it was shot in black and white, you might as well think it was, you know, 1950s.
Yeah.
Practically. You know, one thing that I can name, no sense in waiting to go into this, but I felt like it handled the characters pretty well, where it never transformed any of the white police officers, they always basically stayed the way they started, which is like racist to varying degrees and skeptical in various ways. And it doesn't have any like major transformations towards the end, except for like a slight one by the head chief. And it's barely a transformation at all. So that kind of realistic quality I appreciated, because there are too many of your Green Book movies, your Driving Miss Daisy, is that the name?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are too many of those, right? That aim to be the Oscar winning movie that delves into race, and yet too easily you have a white savior type of character. This doesn't do that. These cops are portrayed, not perfectly matching reality, but to some degree they are.
No, yeah, it's nice that it's honest about the racism, and then it doesn't cleanly redeem them like that. And I think it's very true to life that, like, the way that Chief Gillespie acts around other white people especially doesn't really change at all. Like, he's not going to become a sort of crusader and start, like, railing against other people. There's this sort of reality where it's just, like, hard to reconcile that your whole society is, like, rotten to the core when you start to, like, recognize that. So, like, it's just, like, your body and mind are going to be very reticent to, like, change and actively, like, start to treat that stuff the same way that you, like, might sort of intellectually, like, now recognize it. It's like your habits are so ingrained. Yeah, I think it's very hard to break out of that stuff, because, like, I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why cultures exist the way they exist. It's people learning something from a younger age. It's being conditioned. They're being conditioned, and then overcoming that conditioning is very hard, if not to some impossible. So a movie like this, of course, could potentially be a reflection rather than a lesson, so to speak. I think that's what people don't love about movies that do that, where it tries to teach you something. If anything, a movie that tries to teach you something, when you catch the lesson, when you recognize what it is doing, there's a repulsion some people have, saying, no, this is, I am the way I am. Like, you can't tell me what to do. Like, they'll catch the lesson, and then they will react against that. Whereas if you reflect in a certain way, then it's like there's no lesson to be taught, but then you can look at the mirror and you can go, oh shit, like, okay, I can see how this would be dangerous or bad or wrong. Like, I can see it, because there's no lesson necessarily being taught, but there's kind of a documentary-esque quality where one can make their own judgment. So you might not change people, but you as effectively potentially, but actually you might, right? Because how many people were changed by Green Book? Not to make complete fun of that movie, but I mean, how many people were changed by it versus this one? I'd be curious.
Yeah. You can't sort of prescribe change with a film.
Yeah,
but I think it's important to be that reflection and give people a point of discussion, to take to other people and say, what about, how these characters act in the heat of the night, like, this is the sort of thing that blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And I think you can measure the sort of success of it doing that in the criticism at the time, which was kind of all over the place. The film was really a Rorschach test, for, like, what you thought the audience was going to get out of it, or what you were sort of expecting or saw from it. And there were critics that felt that it was just the same as those films, those sort of self-congratulatory films that came before, and, both men had to learn a lesson about tolerance and this sort of stuff. And then a lot of people said, no, this is like, we're seeing sort of black rage on the screen for the first time. And this is really coming down on the racism and the reality that this doesn't change very easily. And, like, of course, that's why there is so much anger, you know? Critics were all over the spectrum for this. And it was a really successful film with audiences. It became a big hit. And yeah, there's stories of people cheering when Sidney Poitier slaps the guy back in the greenhouse. You know, like it was a new landmark on the screen that American audiences had not seen before. You know,
right, and just that character's ability to not only do that in the greenhouse, but also order him around and sort of have much more control and decision making on his own. You know, he is in some sense the most experienced in a large way officer. So he has a lot more control over the situation than any of these people would have wanted. And that's actually another thing, is the racism is not one of which they have any control over anymore. That's not the correct way to say it. I suppose it's more like they're acknowledging all the time that there was a time when they would be able to put him in line, right? And so it's in this recurring acknowledgement that they have lost power and they're losing power, or losing whatever power they once had, and that things have become more equal despite their conditioning and their racial beliefs.
Yeah, and that plays out in such an interesting way with Rod Steiger as Chief Gillespie, that he's sort of recognizing over and over again how competent Virgil Tibbs is at his job, and he is sort of a better police officer than him. But it's like hard to accept. It's very begrudging, you know. And it's when Tibbs slaps the guy, and the guy says, "You saw that. What are you going to do about it?" And he just says, "I don't know." Like, it's, you know, he's fighting all of his instincts as someone brought up in the South to think a certain way about black people, with the reality that he's sort of intellectually sort of understanding now that doesn't have a basis in anything actually real, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like the victim's wife threatening to take the factory out of the town if they don't let the black officer work the case. It's sort of this, it becomes this metaphor of like the North is going to drag the backward South into the modern day. Like, you all have to get past these prejudices, or, you know, we're cutting you off. We're not helping you anymore, you know?
Right.
One way or another, he is coming to realize this, but the change does not come easy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just to put some perspective on this, it's a little hard with the kind of generational gap we've had now to realize that this film is matching its current culture at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I was reading that Poitier, he was saying that he had shot a film previously in the South, and they had received like racism from the KKK or something like this. So he was like not wanting to shoot in the South, but they had to do some shot because they shoot in the
for the cotton fields.
The cotton plantation. Yeah.
They take. Yeah.
But when down there, they had more threats from some local racists down there, and so they had to cut the production short because of a group of racists, which is just a little difficult to have a perspective of today, now that so much has changed in the way of the South and the North being so concretely different. There are, of course, differences, but back then it was very heated. It was extremely racial still. So to do a movie like this was like, yeah, it's just hard to imagine how this would have been seen and what kind of reactions this would have gotten, especially in the South. I can only imagine that a lot of theaters didn't even play it because of how controversial it was.
That's interesting because it's like at first they weren't. I forget if it was this or Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. But yeah, some of those theaters didn't want to play this film, and then it was becoming such a big hit that they were asking to show it, that then they were going to show it, you know. Like, things are changing very rapidly at this point in history, and yeah, I don't trust the U.S. education system today to express, like, what it was like at that time, because, part of making this film was they wanted to do it on location, which would have been shooting in the South. But yeah, it was Poitier that said, absolutely not. I don't want to go below the Mason-Dixon line. So most of it is shot in Illinois. And then, yeah, when they went to Tennessee for that small amount of time, that was after they had done a couple weeks of shooting, and Poitier had come to trust Jewison and the crew that they would have his back. And that, you know, Jewison assured him, like, we'll do it without publicity, and we'll try to get security for the shoot. People still found out that they were down there, and they were getting harassed all the time. People, like, driving into the hotel at night and making a bunch of noise. And even then, they could only stay at a national chain hotel that had integrated. Like, there was no other place that would let Poitier stay there, or let any of the other black actors stay there. Like, that's what it was in the South at that time. And Poitier said, like, when they were there, he was sleeping with a gun under his pillow. Like, if anyone was going to come through that door, like, they were going to get blown away.
Wow. I mean, again, this is another. It amazes me how many movies off screen reflect what is happening on screen, and that's just another example of the reality and the acting intertwining. Another factoid that I had noticed that's like that is sort of similar to that in a way is that this wins the Best Picture.
Yeah,
I think, right? But the presentation for the Oscar ceremony or that whole thing had to be postponed this year, 1968, the ceremony for 67 when this comes out, because of Martin Luther King's assassination.
Yeah. Which
is wild. So that's another, like, intertwining.
Yeah, that had like just happened the week before. They only delay it 2 days, basically, so that the funeral happens before the ceremony. Because I think Poitier and a couple other people were supposed to present at the Oscars, and they said they would not do it if his funeral had not even happened yet. So that they end up appeasing them by delaying it the 2 days. And yeah, it's like almost certainly the voting happened before MLK was assassinated, but 67 had been such a crazy year with the like race riots and stuff during the summer. Like, tensions were very high, and this was just a new kind of film that ended up really speaking to that moment more than I think they even knew when they were like planning the film, you know, back in like 65 and 66 and stuff. Like, yeah, they couldn't account for sort of how relevant it would be, and that kind of catapults it to Best Picture and stuff. Even though Sidney Poitier didn't get nominated, while Rod Steiger did and wins Best Actor. Kind of weird. And
they were both nominated for Best Actor?
No, I'm saying Poitier was not even nominated.
Oh, he wasn't even nominated.
Yeah.
That is strange.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
strange. Had he been nominated before, do you know?
Yes. Yeah, so
yeah.
His first nomination had been for the Defiant Ones back in 58, 59. But he won for Lilies of the Field. Yeah, in 64, he wins Best Actor for Lilies of the Field, where he's like this guy who rolls into town and meets some immigrant nuns and helps them build a chapel. It sounds like a ridiculous movie. But it was a first time that a black actor won a lead Oscar. And yeah, was that Mark Harris in Pictures at a Revolution says the prize was not a symbol of meaningful change, but a substitute for it. Mm-hmm. That like at the time, Hollywood was really dragging its feet on producing any films with black people in the leads or supports or anything. And the NAACP was kind of coming at them really hard in the press and threatening constantly to go to the unions, bring like discriminatory charges against them, you know, that they needed to sort of integrate and bring in more black people in front of and behind the camera. Yeah, unfortunately at the time, like Sidney Poitier was kind of the only black actor working like consistently. So yeah, he was a symbol, and it was a very self-congratulatory Oscar to give to him while things were still not really changing. So yeah, it's like he won that Oscar, and then yeah, they do kind of skip out on nominating him a couple times after that. It feels like
that's strange.
But it sort of confounds Hollywood because he becomes a huge star in sort of 66 and 67. These sort of message movies that he was in before did not draw in big audiences, but more of his movies are on TV by 66, and I don't know, they're resonating with audiences more, and they're starting to do well both in the North and in the South around this time, and so there's like a couple films that he's in before this one, and they're kind of doing better and better each time, and then this was a really big hit as well. One of those trade magazines says he's the biggest box office draw at this point, I think, around the end of 67.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, well, he shows up on screen so magnificently. You mentioned that you didn't love the acting, but I'm guessing, did you feel that way about his acting or everyone else's?
Yeah, I think he's probably the best part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it does feel like that everyone else is reacting to him and revolving around his presence.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well written in the way that it gets to use silence and gets to be this counterpoint where Chief Gillespie is so loud and brutish, and he's so like awkward, clumsy with like witnesses and suspects. And then Tibbs gets to kind of come in from behind and be a lot quieter and sort of butter up whoever needs to be buttered up and like really finesse the situation. And then of course you see him just sort of dealing with all of these discriminatory things happening to him, and he doesn't have to be just like above it all like in so many of his other roles. Like he is angry, he is like seething in this, you know. Yeah, it's really effective.
Yeah, there is something I've thought of, which I don't know how to put it exactly, but it's I guess it's just a shame in some way that at the time, even though a movie that was dealing with racial tensions was important to make because it could potentially produce change and by reflecting back to society what was going on, it is sort of a shame that had to be the case. I'm just thinking of how, as great of an actor as he was was cornered into a certain role every time. Like every movie that he was in, it like had to be about, racial justice. Like he couldn't just play a role in a typical or just like neutral character. Do you know what I mean? Like it's telling of the time, and just like I don't know. I would have wished to see, and maybe he did do some movie at some point where he just plays like a neutral character, just a guy, rather than having to be like having a conflict of some sort with a white person or a group of white people,
Yeah, or him being the sort of like saintly, exemplary, perfect like black person on screen. Right. Yeah, that was the problem.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, like a film that's like an all black cast or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of after the success of this string of movies that he produces the first like Hollywood romantic comedy with a black couple. So like after he finally gets to this point, he starts to have a little more say in this stuff. I mean, no one was ever forcing him to take these roles, and that's sort of, he did get criticism for like, why do you keep playing, these roles over and over again? And that's like it's a tough spot to be in. Yeah, he was basically the only guy, Harry Belafonte was around in some stuff, but he was mostly a musician and did not want to take those same types of roles. And you had like Sammy Davis Jr. doing like little musical supporting parts and stuff. But no, it was just Poitier. And it's kind of not until after this film that starts to change a little bit. And you'll finally start to see like some black directors and more like roles in just regular situations for black actors, particularly like in the 70s.
Yeah, I guess he does play in Porgy and Bess, which I think is just a film about a black community in the 1900s. But I will say though, there is a part in this movie where he towards the end he's putting the clues together, and he's finding out that this person was going to pay for an abortion, and so he goes to the person who was going to do the abortion, or like where that was going to happen, and that's a black woman, right? I know. It may just be like a neutral decision, or a decision that's like had to deal with like him telling the white police chief, like, I'm going to go where you can't go. I think he said something like that. Yeah. But I mean, is that needed? Is there something there? I don't know. Like,
no, I think that's, it's
like she doesn't do it in like a simple way either. It's sort of witchcrafty, right?
She has kind of a Southern Creole, weird nebulous accent. And I did read in some earlier drafts of the script there was going to be more explicit like voodoo references in that scene and stuff. Like this is where the white writers on this kind of show their ignorance.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of a ridiculous scene and character in that scene, I think.
Yeah, like in some sense it does so well somehow all the way through with the cops and even the guys who chase him down, and like you said, like that the head police officer, he's not going to be some hero. He just tells those boys to leave, but he's still not friends with this guy from Philadelphia. But then we were brought to that place with that woman, and I just felt like, oh man, this is Hollywood for sure, sneaking back in and saying, we still have a lot to learn, but overall, pretty decent effort.
Yeah. They also cut out more scenes with that black family, the like mechanic that offers to take him in.
Oh yeah.
Apparently.
Oh, you can tell now that you say that it's obvious, because that was such a quick little.
Someone said to Jewison, like, I don't I don't want to be preached at, whatever, That was the tone of those scenes, I think, or something.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of editing, you've got Hal Ashby editing this one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he comes up as an editor kind of in the 60s, and he was working with Jewison on a couple different projects, and they had a real partnership. Like he was super involved, always giving notes on stuff, always like being the liaison with the producers to kind of keep them off of Jewison's back. And yeah, he's just a big part of a lot of the creative decisions in this film. And he had already kind of had designs to get into directing eventually. I think Jewison wanted to help him get there too, and he produces Ashby's first film, The Landlord, which is pretty great. People should watch that. And it's I think Bill Gunn writes it, actually, who is kind of a black novelist and also directs some films himself. He directs Ganja and Hess, the wonderful weird vampire film. Kind of getting far afield now, but The Landlord is interesting because it also deals with this young white man buying an apartment building where black people live, and the sort of, what are the interactions between those two parties, But yeah, probably.
That's awesome.
It's interesting to think that Ashby was working very closely on this, and that's where he goes for his first film, which I think that will come out in 1970.
No, that's really cool. And then, yeah, speaking of crew, the cinematographer Wexler, Haskell Wexler, who did Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Yeah.
And he also was going to do Faces with Cassavetes.
Oh, I did not realize he does that too.
And One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest too. But with this film, it's one of the first, if not the first, Hollywood movie that really portrays the complexion of an African American correctly. Yeah. He tones down the lighting and gets the color much more accurately than had previously been done, which is cool. And it gives it that, I didn't realize that, but it does give it an interesting look, and it does give it that like kind of, I don't know, closer to a noir feeling. Things are darker even in the day.
Yeah. It's new to see the sort of like night shots that you see in this in color. Because the norm was, the big brightly lit comedies or musicals or stuff. That would be what was in color. And this comes kind of right at the pivot when Hollywood is changing over to color films primarily to sort of combat TV, which was also going into color. Wexler really figures out how to make this look kind of documentary, but also kind of like noir and dark and stuff. And he's got like that chase sequence that goes through the forest, and it's the like rushing past. It's shades of Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors at that point.
Ooh, yeah, POV, and he falls into the ground, and the camera falls into the ground.
Yeah. That stuff's fun. That stuff, it's shot well, and the editing is like very kinetic.
Yeah. I mean that does so much for a movie. I mean, even if you have like somewhat lackluster acting, if you have a strong cinematography and editing and a good story that's captivating, I mean, that really holds a movie together so well. There's plenty of movies that ended up getting made fast, maybe lower budgets, I don't know, in the 80s and 90s, where you definitely wonder, what the hell happened with the editing and all that stuff. Because you see movies like this done in 1967 that feel more modern than the actual the year. this feels like, in terms of editing and cinematography, like it could be placed more appropriately in like the 70s or something.
Yeah, 70s or even like 80s-ish. I kind of thought of like Spielberg. Because this feels like it kind of skips over the super 70s, like amateurish feeling type of thing that becomes really in vogue. Like, in a sense, this is like really controlled, and you've got great sort of like tracking and panning with the camera.
Mm-hmm.
But the color and the look is so much more kind of grounded, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would even say like a Godfather precursor.
Yeah.
To the color there. Yeah.
I bet that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Coppola, he had just put out his first film, a comedy, this year, the year before.
Mm.
It's just funny. Yeah, he's coming up. He's probably out there watching this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the music too. The music makes it feel more modern. And you've got Quincy Jones doing the music.
Right. Ray Charles did one of the songs.
Yeah,
too.
The title song.
Yeah. The music's great. Music's really good. Yeah,
this is super early for Quincy. This is only one of his first couple of films.
Yeah, it's quite the ensemble. And I suppose, in retrospect, you can see, like, if you have all these different crew members on the project, like they're you were bound to get a good film out of it with all this talent. No one person was like holding it together. It was a team effort.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like hearing the novel that this was adapted from, like hearing that be described, this was not like some special story that had something really innately interesting in it. Like that novel is kind of old fashioned, and Virgil Tibbs in that is just sort of this cipher who doesn't really react to the racism happening to him and stuff. And like, yeah, what they did in adapting this, and then sort of all the different sort of perspectives that came into it really brought life to it, I think.
Mm. Yeah, it's amazing that that they were able to pull off this film. Again, to just reinstate that you have racial tensions at the time, and you do this film, and it becomes popular. In some sense, I don't know what Jewison did before this, but he's going to do Fiddler on the Roof after.
Yeah.
And that makes total sense, because you do something like this, you can almost feel like you could do anything. Like you could, if you could do this, you can easily do a movie that's all about Jewish history and culture to a Hollywood American audience that know next to nothing overall about that.
Yeah, totally. This is a totally unproven type of film at this point. And he kind of got the leeway to make this how he wanted to because of his previous film, The Russians Are Coming, which is this comedy kind of in the like Doctor Strangelove mold, I think. This Cold War comedy that was a big surprise hit. So even though the studio did not want to make this film on location or anything, he was able to push for that. To like, they kind of doubted this film all along the production, but it's what him and his crew pour into it, and then it comes at that right time, and really resonates with people.
Yeah. There's probably criticism. I mean, you've done your research. Is there criticism towards the portrayal of police officers? Did you get any sense of that, or did it just people just think there was a different time and they were rough back then, which they are in this movie at times?
Yeah, I didn't. There were people that felt that this. I don't think anyone felt that like the racism and sort of the way that the officers acted was disingenuous at all. Mm-hmm. I think people felt more often the other way, that like Rod Steiger's character was like learning a lesson very quickly and easily, which I think that, like we talked about earlier, it's not as simple as that. It's like, his habits are still there, and his behavior's not going to change that much. But no, I think the news and sort of what had been going on was, you had all these protests and things, and people got used to seeing this type of like Southern sheriff person in the news and stuff. And I think people had an image in their heads of like a sort of backwards, brutish Southern police officer. So,
right.
Yeah. And in some ways it's like things have changed, but, I don't know, things have not changed.
Sure.
As much. Like, there was a time when I think people were seeing the police less favorably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I'm just thinking of, where do we go from here?
Well, what about Rod Steiger? So, yeah, he's really good in this role.
Chewing his gum.
He's a little, I don't know, he's a weird actor. And there are moments in this where I'm like, I don't know what he's doing exactly. I think it's a fake Southern accent that he's doing.
He did do that accent the whole shooting.
Right.
The entire time
This is the thing. He's one of these methody actors. And I don't know if I love it every single second of this film.
Yeah.
He is watchable. He's interesting on screen. But there's something where he just like modulates and his energy level sometimes feels like it doesn't match the scene.
No, I know. I agree. I mean, I think I appreciated his acting the whole way through generally, but I wasn't always sold that he was like a Southerner.
Yeah.
And in fact, in the very beginning, it took me a while. There's a shot where I think that the cop early on, he pulls over to get gas, and the gas station says Compton. It has a sign that says Compton Gas or something like this. And I just kind of was in my mind. I was like, okay, so we're in LA, And then the acting happens, and I did not catch that this was in the South until like,
wow,
almost halfway through. It wasn't, because it's not strong. Nobody's talking in a very strong Southern accent. It's subtle, at least by my standard.
I don't know. You had the other police officer in the diner with that weird, tall, lanky guy with his pies.
Yeah.
And I think that was going, okay, yeah, we're in the South. We've got some weird stuff going on here.
Yeah. Sometimes I imagine that everybody talked like that back in the day.
Yeah.
But I know. I agree. I appreciated it, but I wasn't always like amazed by his acting.
Apparently, he put on a ton of weight for this role. Like he really got into it. Poitier said like he had kind of never worked with an actor like this, one of these method guys. But he really appreciated that. He felt like it kind of brought his game up. And that they had some long nights of rehearsing stuff and going back and forth, and if they had to shoot coverage and it was a close up on Poitier, like Steiger would be there saying his lines to him with that full force, just to help him bring the emotion. So it's like they really enjoyed working with each other, it sounded like. And yes, Steiger, I don't know much about him. He sounds like a weird guy. I think he thanks the Maharishi in his Oscar acceptance speech or something. He was apparently obsessed with like that, the Indian Hinduism, or the stuff that was in vogue with the Beatles and stuff at the time.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm guessing he partially wins because people were expecting him to win a couple years back for this movie, The Pawnbroker, where he plays like a Holocaust survivor living in America. I think it's a Sidney Lumet film that he did not win for. And so this might have been a little bit of a makeup. It's like he's due for it type of win. I don't know. It feels like a strange Best Actor Oscar win to me.
Yeah, you want like what was going on there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have these side roles that definitely felt a little bit flat. The guy who runs the restaurant or works at the restaurant, he reminded me of the guy in Psycho a little bit. The guy that runs the hotel.
They're kind of going for that sort of thing.
Yeah. Which by doing that, it really kind of gave it away early on for me. But and then you have like the girl he's with. The wife, she comes in and she does that whole...
The widow.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she's doing the, like, she's frozen, but she won't let Poitier touch her. That felt very, like, rehearsed to me.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, there were these, like, moments of rehearsed feeling, yeah. But then there's, like, it cuts between that and then this kind of feeling of almost between Steiger and Poitier. Improv at times. So it goes back and forth between like, really organic acting, lively, kind of realistic, to this kind of more rehearsed acting between actors. But I mean, you get that a lot. You get that a lot in films back in the day, where there's a lot of things changing. There's a lot of actors learning how to be very real on screen. And then there's actors who just don't keep up and they are more trained in theater or whatever it might be. And so there are a lot of films during this time that still feel like they're caught between the two eras. The one that felt more staged and the one that feels more organic and realistic.
Yeah. Everyone is sort of bringing their own method to it. And some people are thinking, films they're big, they're theatrical, all this stuff. That's what they've always been. And some people are like, I'm going to bring a realism. I'm going to really live in it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's where we are. 1967. We're in the middle. It really has felt that way as we go through all these films. It really feels, and we say this often, but it really feels like we're in a changing time. We watched how many films? 100, more than 100, 200 maybe, from early 1900s to now. And we've, of course, seen many films in, modern era. So, yeah, what's your reflection on where we're at there and just, how things have been changing?
It boggles my mind anytime I think about how much films change in this period of time from like the early 60s to the early 70s. I can't imagine it really. Because films just look totally different by the time that you get to the 70s. Mm-hmm. And they feel totally different. And like, I don't know, this, like what comes out after this?
Wavelength.
No, but like some of this Robert Altman stuff, where it feels very like naturalistic. It feels like I don't know, you're watching like a crowd of people just like going about their day, and it's something totally different from what you're used to, like, or even like A Clockwork Orange is going to come out in 4 years. That seems unheard of. 2001 is going to come out the next year. I mean, that's
wild. Yeah.
That film feels like they invented a new type of film for that. Yeah. Like I kind of can't imagine that they're using the same stock for this film and that film.
No, I mean, in many films are going to feel like that through the mid 60s to the mid 70s. It's going to feel like a bunch of new types of films are being made. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Easy Rider comes out in 69.
Right.
Which, and all of this, I know this is obvious to say, but I mean, so much of this is kind of a product of Godard, tearing the seams off of what could be done. And even though he kind of drags it into the ground and kind of becomes a redundant reverberation of his own making, he tears the seams off. And as with other French New Wave guys, and then we end up with Hollywood just kind of it just kind of seems like Hollywood's like, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Throughout the 60s, everyone's just kind of like,
it's crazy.
Just do whatever you want.
It's crazy. And yeah, number one, Haskell Wexler shooting this film talked about Raoul Coutard, who was cinematographer for Godard on most of his stuff, and wanting to emulate that sort of kinetic kind of improvisational sort of camera work. But also, number two, Hollywood, they thought at this time we should be making huge musicals. Like The Sound of Music had just come out and had been a huge hit. It had become the highest grossing film in history, overtaking, what's it called? The racist film.
Gone with the Wind. It's hard to remember a movie that's literally called Gone with the Wind. Yeah.
But no, they all thought, yes, we make these huge, colorful musicals, and they play in theaters for months and months, and we just rake in the money, right? And then, like, Dr. Dolittle comes out this year. It's a bomb. They lose so much money on it. And this kind of happens a couple times. Meanwhile, you're getting this film, you're getting something like The Graduate, also becoming just one of the most highest grossing films ever. And it's new. It's like about young people. It's about like kind of society changing and these sort of social issues people are wrestling with. And it's a young director. And what happens basically with The Graduate becoming this huge hit is they go, I guess we don't know what we're doing. We can't trust ourselves to make these decisions anymore. Let's just give some money and creative freedom to these young guys. And it's worth the gamble at this point, because we had no way of predicting that The Graduate was going to be this huge of a hit. But this seems to be what audiences want. So,
young audiences, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I'm just thinking of how, like, a huge percentage of people who are going to see these movies, half of them, you think of that, half of the general audience were teenagers in the 30s. They were. This is still an era where the Depression was very much on the minds of people, who had to live through it. And it was a conservative time. It was a hard time. And those people, most of them aren't really ready for something like The Graduate, I'm going to guess, or, some of these movies. But they all had children, of course, who've had a different upbringing, and they're all kind of ready for something different. So you're kind of split in a way between that older generation and this new one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And they were so used to catering to those older tastes. And then here come the baby boomers, and they are going to The Graduate, The Dirty Dozen, films like this in droves. And it changes what gets made.
Amazing. So coming up next week, we're going to be talking about Wavelength, a shorter kind of experimental film. And if we're talking about this movie, we'll be talking about other experimental films in the history there and stuff too. So look forward to that. And we're marching through time.
That's right.
And head over to unauthorizedpod.com for any info such as our Letterboxd and links to that, and a form to fill out any questions, comments, things like that.
Yeah. All right. Till next time.
Peace.